So I normally do a top 10 list at the end of every year where I talk about my 10 favorite games. This year, honestly, didn't have enough big winners for me, so I just want to go down memory lane with y'all and quickly go through all of the games I played that were released in 2022. I'll maybe then throw in a top 10 card or something at the end. I don't know. Whatever. Here we go. First up, an incredible game. Thinking about when I made my first video on Vampire Survivors back in January, it only had 2 maps and a handful of characters. Now it's bursting with characters, items, stages, and challenges. A very fun and unique game with excellent time-killing capabilities. Had a really good time with this one. Heaven Dust 2 is an isometric-like survival horror heavily inspired by Resident Evil. It isn't a bad game. It has some decent puzzling with some good level design. I think the combat and especially the bosses needed some more work, but this was an alright indie survival horror game in my opinion. Nothing too flashy, but nothing too bad either. Guilty Gear Strive had some DLC that released this year, and it was very strong. The updates it came out with included a new story, but more importantly, new characters. Biken, Testament, Bridget, and Sin were all released in 2022, alongside new mechanical changes that were just a bunch of fun. Basically just new additions added to a game I already liked a lot. King of Fighters 15 is just not a game I personally enjoyed playing. After spending $60 full for it, just so I could play at launch, the best time to try out a new fighting game, I was met with systems and characters I just did not enjoy playing with. What's even worse is that I tried every character and a whole bunch of team combinations to try and get it to work, and none of them were clicking with me. I just had to resign my time with KOF 15 as a game that just is not for me. An excellent culmination of all the Souls games before it, Elden Ring is a vast journey full of tons of bosses, monsters, magics, and new discoveries. I'm not a fan of the open world design, but I believe it does what it intends to do, and succeeds at it. I like the evolution of the series, mainly how the game encourages you to use all of its new toys, like summons, weapon arts, horse combat, and impressive magic systems. It's a big game that does big things, and I had a good time playing it. I wasn't going to play Tunic originally. I'm burnt out on little indies where you play as a cute critter with a sword and do some Souls-adjacent type combat, but it was on Games Pass, so I tried it, and I'm happy I did that. Tunic is great. I enjoyed exploring the world, I enjoyed the combat, the puzzles, the art, the music, everything. My only real issue I had with the game was with its final boss and 100%ing it, but for 95 to 96% of the game, I thought it was great. It was a blast. Listen, I thought it would be a funny game to play and try out, but Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is just not optimized, and it ran like garbage. I bought a brand new computer and then tried to run it, and it still ran badly. Revisiting Stranger of Paradise to get footage for this video, I actually ended up liking the gameplay a lot more, and it ran a little bit better, but the never-ending garbage pile of loot and horribly boring dialogue put me off from playing this game any more than I had to. Nightfall: A Daring Journey might be one of my favorite BRs I've ever played. Just a wacky, enjoyable duo queuing experience, Nightfall was a creative and fun time. Yeah, it was only an April Fool's joke, but one that I really enjoyed. I kind of wish it was still around, to be honest. I've played Mario Strikers Battle League both online and in person with 7 other physical people in the same room as me. And the novelty of this game wears off almost immediately. After 2 or so games, there just really isn't any fun left to be had with it. Even after adding new characters and maps for free, it still doesn't make the game any more enjoyable than a one-time thing. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and I already really enjoyed Rise, and Sunbreak just builds on it. It added more monsters, more weapons, and more weapon abilities, more monster abilities, more zones, more rewards, more updates. Overall, just a great expansion on an already great game. I was really excited for DNF Duel, but unfortunately, I did not like it. Just like with KOF, none of the characters really vibed with me. On top of the fact that I fucking hated playing against some of these clowns, combined with an online system that people were constantly rage quitting out of. I don't know, man. DNF Duel was just a rough time, and I did not enjoy playing it in the slightest. I enjoyed looking at it though. It looks great. Kinda wish there was more to it. Pretty bare bones, and if you didn't like the characters, there was just no point in playing it. I had a great time with Symphony of War. I like the gameplay a lot. Strategy RPGs are one of my favorite types of games, and there's a lot of customization here, but with how you build your squads alongside with how you build your units for each squad. And I'm not the biggest fan of all of the complexities in the game. I did enjoy playing it enough to spend 30 hours to beat it. Hated the story though, but what can you do? So this on-rails indie Star Fox isn't out of early access yet, so I'm sure I'll talk about it again when it is, but I love Exodiac. Very fun gameplay with an art design I actually really like because you don't see it a lot. And the game isn't finalized, but I like what it's got going on so far, and I hope they keep adding to it. I thought Multiverses was a cool platform fighter, primarily because it focuses on the 2v2 teams aspect. Once I finished the initial battle pass though, I didn't find any real reason to keep playing. None of my friends played it, and honestly, I'm not sure what it is about Multiverse, but it doesn't feel as good to play as Melee or Ultimate. I had my fun, but I don't find this game calling me back to play it ever again. I love Digimon and I love tactical RPGs, so Digimon Survive should have been a knockout. Sadly, after 12 hours in this game, it failed to grip me in any real way. And if you can tell, by spending 12 hours in it, I gave it a lot of chances. The gameplay is just boring, and the story is also bad. It just circles and circles around, and nothing exciting or interesting, to me at least, ever really happened. It's a shame, but so it goes. Was really looking forward to Rumbleverse, and it was fun for the week or so I played it, but duo queues are a little too hectic for me, and soloing is just a bit too stressful. It is a fun game. I played a round recently where I spear tackled a guy off a map and killed us both, and I laughed so hard tears came out of my eyes. There's definitely something here for this game, but maybe in very small doses for me. Omega Strikers is 3v3 League of Legends meets air hockey. I still think that bruisers or bullies or whatever the assassin characters who just fight and don't interact with the puck are called make the game pretty lame to play. But when you get into the groove of hitting, forward, bouncing back, buffing, debuffing, and whatnot, the game is actually really fun. I had a good time and really enjoy what Omega Strikers had to offer. The second Resident Evil update brought me back into Dead by Daylight. I love Resident Evil and was more than willing to pick up Ada Wong and Rebecca Chambers and get chased around by Albert Wesker. It's a fun time, frustrating game, but it has its moments. I bought Metal Hellsinger because the System of a Down vocalist was in it. It makes sense that they save him for the end, but you know, so it goes. Fun gameplay loop with good music. I kind of wish that it was more than it is. The game just feels a little safe, if that makes sense. It didn't really push any boundaries. It's pretty straightforward. Still a fun time though. Alright, I don't have the time to write an 80-page dissertation on Solstice, so I'll just say that this game has good art and good ideas. The game does get a lot worse the longer it goes on. There is a really good game buried inside this mess, but it's just questionable decision after questionable decision that left me with more frustration than enjoyment by the end of it. Gundam Evolution rocks. It has no business being as fun as it was. I liked how powerful and ridiculous all the mechs were, and the solid weight and speed of the game was fantastic. Y'all missed out picking Overwatch 2 over it. Shame. Shame it dwindled and died out. But I'll never forget you. Saku 2 Melee. As a former Legend Hearthstone player, I was pretty excited for Marvel Snap. After messing up a bunch of people early on, I just couldn't get into the game. After a couple dozen straight wins of playing around Iron Man and the Hulk, I got bored. To be fair, I did watch my friend who has 60 plus hours in this game play with all these new cool cards and abilities, and that seemed fun, but playing with and against the starter cards for as long as I did really drained me, and it just wasn't my jam. The Resident Evil 8 DLC is good. Well, it's fine. Rose's campaign is short, and it has a super scary sequence in it that is truly horrifying, but it otherwise isn't that notable. Playing the OG campaign in third person is also a cool novelty, and the new mercenary mode characters are genuinely fun. I do think the DLC is worth $20, but I also think, at the same time, you can go your whole life without ever playing it, and you wouldn't be missing anything. Survival horror shows up in outer space, and it's scary and great and one of the best games I've played this year. Signalis is both excellent as a game, along with having a very engaging story. I value game design a lot, and I know that's a stupid statement to say, but I mean it. The level design in this game is so strong, and the movement and gunplay is very well done, and the puzzles are really well executed. Truly, Signalis is a game that deserves as much praise as possible. I grew up playing Sonic games, and have played every 3D Sonic game over the course of my life. And Sonic Frontiers took the idea of playing as Sonic in 3D and not ruining it with a gimmick or by playing mostly as his friends. This game actually being fun shocked me. It literally shocked me. It is fun. If you like Sonic Adventure 1 or Sonic Adventure 2, you're gonna like Sonic Frontiers. I love Zeboid RPGs, so I was pretty sad with how glitchy and buggy This Way Madness Lies was on launch. My game had 2 hard locks where I had to reset the entire RPG from the beginning because I got glitched and sent backwards in time. I really like the art style and the combat. I think it's really good as usual. They nail combat in RPGs, but I'm just gonna wait a little bit before restarting a third time to finish it. Darktide is a good foundation for a game. I like the weapons, the movement, the enemies, all of that. It just feels a little empty, and it feels like it's designed to be built on. While the game is fun, there aren't a lot of levels to go through, nor any real incentives to do more than complete all of the different levels. I wish the game was more optimized, and I wish that it had more content, but I have high hopes for it in the future. Lunistis is a short 3D platformer that's extremely enjoyable. I love the movement in this game a lot, and the controls feel really good. It's only a few bucks and well worth experiencing for yourself if you like 3D platformers. It's way better than it should be. For a $5 Zelda clone, Valky 64 could be a lot worse. There's a ton of promise with this game, and as someone who loves 3D Zeldas, it was a fun time. It clearly lacks a lot of polish and refinement, but it was a fun ride all the way to the finish. To be fair, I only played around 2 hours of it, and Gungrave Gore is a third-person shooter disguised as a character action game, and the main chunk of character action I experienced was shooting enemies with pistols that auto-aimed for me. Kind of felt like I time traveled back to 2009 Xbox 360 gaming with this one. This little indie title is $3, and for $3 you get a very mechanically sound game. Super Kiwi 64 has you controlling this little kiwi bird, and it's really fun and shows just how enjoyable a Banjo-Kazooie style platformer can be. The game also took me 45 minutes to 100%, and it is so unbelievably short that I'm not sure it's worth the 45 minutes, if that makes sense. Like, it's worth the $3, but I don't think it's worth the time. And finally, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. One of my first ever tweets was asking for a Crisis Core port. I loved the PSP game, and I still consider Zack Fair to be my favorite fictional character ever. This game is almost a direct port, with the only changes being the combat, and they made that a lot more enjoyable. I think the combat is objectively better. Playing this game, though, reminded me that it was designed to be a portable experience, and on a PC in like full-on gaming sessions, instead of little 5-minute divots, 5-minute game periods, it really shows how middling a lot of Crisis Core is. When Crisis Core is good, it's great, and when Crisis Core is bad, it's worse. I still like it, but if you haven't played it before, I think it's too late. Just watch the cutscenes of the second half. And finally, I got into the Street Fighter 6 beta, and while that technically isn't fair to talk about because it hasn't been released yet, I played this game for like 12 hours. It was super fun. I'm actually very excited for Street Fighter 6. Even the handful of characters I got to try out were a really good time, and the game looks great and it plays great. I just hope that, it releases with no issues. Crossing my fingers. And that's gonna do it. Just like a real quick listing of all the games I had played. I didn't really find 10 games that I thought were like top 10 worthy, you know what I mean? Not 10 games I was super passionate about. There were a couple I really liked. So I'll just kind of go down my top 10 list here, and it's gonna be real quick and breezy like the rest of this video. Number 10, Symphony of War. I thought it did a lot of fun things, but it's got some problems. Tunic is at number 9. I thought that was also a relatively fun and enjoyable time. Number 8 is Vampire Survivors. Again, I think this is like a criminally underrated video game. Even if everyone who plays it only praises it, which is the case, there's not enough people really talk about it. Number 7 is going to be Warhammer 40k Darktide. It's Vermintide, but in the 40k universe. I think it's very fun, but I recognize that it's missing a lot of components, and it does feel hollow. It certainly needs more levels and more things to do. Number 6 is going to be Crisis Core Reunion. I think the game has some solid gameplay, but it's also bogged down with a pretty horrendous story up until you get to the good part, like the whole reason you play Crisis Core. And you play Crisis Core to experience a very specific set of moments, and this game delivers on those moments. It just doesn't deliver on anything else. Number 5 is Gundam Evolution. I actually really liked this game. It's just a shame that not a lot of people play it, and the handful of people who do play it are very whiny, and I don't know, man. I really wish this was popular. I would have loved to keep playing this game. Number 4 is Sonic Frontiers. This game's very fun. I 100%ed it. I had a really good time doing it. It's got really good music. It's got like reasonable enough platforming. I thought it did something well. I don't know how else to explain it. I thought this game was going to be absolutely horrendous. This game looks like dog shit, and I thought it was going to be terrible, and it turned out to be really fun. Number 3 is Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. I still play this game. I play this game every week, and I think it's great. There are new monsters, new things to hunt, new weapons, new abilities. It's very good. It's just a fantastic expansion. It just made a good game even greater. Number 2 is going to be Elden Ring. I don't know what I can say about Elden Ring that other people haven't said about it. I mean, I'm not like, I think it's fine. It's like an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 video game. It does a lot of things right, and it does a lot of things I don't personally agree with, but I had a fun time. Like, I wouldn't spend 70 hours playing a video game that I didn't really enjoy, and I did really enjoy Elden Ring. I thought it was really cool. And number 1 is Signalis. I didn't know if I was going to get this video out, if I was even going to have time to make it. That's why I made an entire video talking about how much I like Signalis. And yeah, it's my favorite game of the year. This is like a really cool game in my opinion, and would certainly be rivaling some of the games that I liked from previous years. Just a really good, really solid survival horror game in a cool, stylized world. I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, let me put my notes down. That's it. That's it for 2022. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one, and I will hopefully see you next year. I'm waving as if you can see me, but you can feel that I'm waving at you. You can feel the wave. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Happy New Year. Goodbye.